There is a real sense of uncertainty surrounding the wide receiver situation for the New England Patriots right now, and it's impossible to ignore how many different directions this could go as the team reshapes its identity. After the departure of Stephon Diggs, the immediate reaction might be to assume the chapter is closed, but the reality feels a lot more open-ended than that. There's still a scenario, even if it's not the most obvious one, where a reunion could happen depending on how the rest of the roster unfolds. That uncertainty alone tells you everything about where this team stands at the position. Looking ahead, the draft becomes a major focal point, especially with the Patriots holding a late first-round pick. Sitting in that spot puts them in a tricky position because while there is depth in this year's receiver class, there isn't necessarily that instant impact, plug-and-play option waiting for them when they're on the clock. A name like Carnell Tate might fit that profile, but expecting him to still be available by that point feels unrealistic. That forces the team into a patient approach, something we've already seen before, where development becomes just as important as immediate production. And when you look at the current group already on the roster, it's filled with potential, but also filled with questions. Players like Kayshon Boutte, Romeo Doubs, and Kyle Williams all bring flashes of talent that suggest they could step into a bigger role. The issue is consistency and certainty. Each one has shown glimpses of being able to handle top responsibilities, but relying on what-if scenarios across the board is not a comfortable place for any team trying to compete at a high level. That's where the conversation naturally shifts toward external additions, because standing still doesn't feel like a realistic option. Free agency presents one path, and a name like Deebo Samuel immediately stands out. Even coming off a season that didn't quite meet expectations, context matters. A change in environment, a more stable offensive structure, and the opportunity to work within a system led by Josh McDaniels could completely reshape his impact. Pairing that with a young quarterback like Drake may opens up intriguing possibilities, especially when you consider Samuel's versatility and ability to create mismatches. Still, there's another route that feels even more aggressive and potentially more transformative. Instead of committing heavily in the draft or settling in free agency, the Patriots could take a calculated risk by waiting things out and striking through a trade. That approach would allow them to address other needs first, build a more balanced roster, and then make a decisive move for a proven number one option. The name that keeps surfacing in that conversation is A.J. Brown, a player who instantly changes the dynamic of any offense he steps into. Timing would be everything in that scenario. The post-June window often opens up flexibility across the league, and if the Patriots position themselves correctly, they might be able to negotiate a deal without sacrificing their most valuable assets. That balance between being aggressive and being strategic is going to define how this front office operates, especially under the broader vision being implemented. At the same time, attention isn't limited to just one side of the ball. Defensively, there are also major decisions looming, particularly when it comes to reinforcing the pass rush. Big names have been floated in conversations, including elite talents like Myles Garrett, but the cost associated with acquiring a player of that caliber continues to climb. Contract adjustments and long-term commitments make it increasingly clear that prying him away would require a massive investment, one that could reshape the team's future in both positive and risky ways. For a team still in the process of building its foundation under Mike Vrabel, that kind of move might feel premature. There's a difference between being close to contention and forcing a move that assumes you're already there. Right now, the Patriots appear to be walking that line carefully, making sure they don't sacrifice long-term stability for short-term excitement. All of this is unfolding against the backdrop of a league that continues to evolve in how it presents the game. The schedule itself is becoming more dynamic, with new kickoff formats and international games adding layers of intrigue to the season. The idea of the league opening on a Wednesday night, something that hasn't happened in over a decade, signals just how much the NFL is willing to experiment to keep fans engaged from the very start. And as the season structure shifts, so does the global reach of the game. International matchups are no longer just a novelty. They're becoming a core part of the league's identity. The expansion into new markets, combined with high-profile matchups, creates an atmosphere that feels bigger than ever, and teams like the Patriots are right in the middle of that evolving landscape. Even beyond the regular season, The long-term planning around championship games shows how the league is thinking ahead. With future Super Bowls set to rotate through major cities like Los Angeles, Atlanta, and Las Vegas, the spectacle continues to grow, blending football with entertainment on a massive scale. For players, coaches, and fans, these destinations represent more than just a game. They represent the pinnacle of the sport's global appeal. And when you connect all of these elements together, from roster decisions to league-wide changes, it becomes clear that the Patriots are navigating one of the most pivotal stretches in recent memory, where every move carries weight and every decision shapes what comes next. What makes this entire situation even more fascinating is how much patience the Patriots might need to show in the coming months, because rushing into a decision at wide receiver could easily backfire. There is a strong argument to be made that building through the draft remains the most sustainable path, even if it doesn't deliver immediate star power. The challenge, however, is that developing a true number one target takes time, and time is something that doesn't always align with the urgency of competing in the modern NFL. That's the internal conflict this front office is dealing with right now, balancing long-term growth with the need to give their offense a reliable focal point. If they choose to wait, the spotlight intensifies on the players already in the building. The pressure isn't just about performance anymore. It's about proving that one of them can rise above the rest and claim that leading role. That kind of competition can either elevate a group or expose its limitations, and the Patriots are essentially betting on internal growth if they don't act aggressively. It creates a training camp environment where every rep matters, every route is scrutinized, and every opportunity becomes a chance to separate from the pack. At the same time, the development of Drake cannot be overlooked in this equation. A young quarterback's progression is directly tied to the weapons around him, and asking him to elevate an uncertain receiving core is a massive responsibility. Giving him a proven playmaker could accelerate his growth, while relying solely on potential might slow that process down. That's why every decision at wide receiver feels like it carries double the impact, not just for the position itself, but for the entire offensive trajectory of the team. There's also a psychological element to all of this that often goes unnoticed. Bringing in an established name sends a message, not only to the locker room, but to the rest of the league. It signals intent, ambition, and a willingness to compete now rather than later. On the flip side, staying patient and trusting the current roster sends a different kind of message, one that emphasizes development and belief in the system being built under Mike Vrabel. Neither approach is inherently wrong, but each one shapes the identity of the team in very different ways. And then there's the financial side, which always plays a quiet but critical role in these decisions. Managing cap space while planning for future extensions forces teams to think several steps ahead. Investing heavily in a wide receiver, whether through free agency or trade, could limit flexibility in other areas. That's particularly important for a team that still has multiple positions to solidify. The Patriots are not just building a roster for one season. They are trying to construct something that can sustain success over multiple years. This is why the idea of a strategic trade continues to linger as such an intriguing option. Waiting until the right moment, when leverage shifts and opportunities open up, could allow the Patriots to make a move that feels both bold and calculated. A player like A.J. Brown represents that kind of opportunity, someone who doesn't just fill a need, but completely transforms the structure of an offense. The question is whether the timing will ever align in a way that makes that move realistic without overpaying. Meanwhile, the defensive side of the ball continues to develop its own storyline. Building a consistent pass rush remains a priority, especially in a league where disrupting the quarterback is often the difference between winning and losing. While blockbuster names like Myles Garrett capture attention, the Patriots may ultimately find more value in developing talent through the draft and adding complementary pieces rather than making one massive acquisition. It's a more methodical approach, but one that aligns with building depth and maintaining flexibility. As the league itself continues to evolve, the environment these players are stepping into is changing as well. The expanded schedule, international games, and adjusted kickoff times all contribute to a season that feels more demanding and more unpredictable. Players are being asked to adapt not just to opponents, but to travel, time zones, and a constantly shifting routine. For a team in transition, handling those variables becomes another layer of the challenge. There's also something to be said about momentum and how quickly narratives can shift in the NFL. A team that looks incomplete in the offseason can suddenly find its rhythm once the games begin, especially if young players take unexpected leaps. On the other hand, a team that appears loaded on paper can struggle to find chemistry. That unpredictability is what makes this stage so compelling, because so much of what we're projecting right now is based on potential rather than certainty. For the Patriots, everything seems to circle back to identity. What kind of team do they want to be moving forward? Do they lean into a balanced, methodical approach, or do they make a statement move that immediately changes expectations? The answer to that question will shape not just this season, but the direction of the franchise over the next several years. And with so many moving parts, every decision feels like a piece of a much larger puzzle that is still coming together in real time. Another layer to this whole situation is how the locker room itself responds to uncertainty, because players are always aware when a position group is still being evaluated. When there isn't a clear leader at wide receiver, it creates both opportunity and tension. Everyone knows the role is up for grabs, but at the same time, that lack of definition can impact rhythm on the field. Timing between a quarterback and his receivers is built on trust and repetition, and when that hierarchy isn't established early, it can slow down the development of the entire offense. You can also feel how much this upcoming stretch will define the coaching staff's approach, especially on the offensive side. There is a strong possibility that the system gets adjusted to fit the personnel rather than forcing players into rigid roles. That kind of flexibility can be a strength, particularly when you have a coordinator with a deep understanding of how to adapt schemes week by week. It could mean more motion, more creative alignments, and a heavier emphasis on spreading the ball around instead of relying on a single dominant target. At the same time, expectations from the fan base continue to build, and that adds another dimension to every move being considered. Supporters are looking for signs that the team is ready to take a step forward, and the wide receiver position has become a symbol of that progress. Whether it's through a high-profile addition or a breakout performance from within, there is a clear desire to see this offense evolve into something more dynamic and explosive than what we've seen in recent seasons. And as all of this unfolds, the margin for error becomes incredibly small, because every decision now connects directly to how quickly this team can return to relevance. One smart move can accelerate the timeline, while one misstep can set things back. That's why the front office has to weigh every option carefully, knowing that the path they choose at wide receiver could end up being one of the defining factors in how this entire era of Patriots football is remembered moving forward. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to Patriots Hub and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our New England Patriots. And don't be shy, share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers are beginning to circulate around the facilities of the New England Patriots, and they paint a picture that is as intriguing as it is unsettling. According to remarks attributed to Kevin Byard, the training methods being implemented under head coach Mike Vrabel are nothing short of intense, and, in some corners of the locker room, even described as borderline frightening. Sources close to the situation suggest that Vrabel has introduced a regime built on relentless repetition, physical confrontation, and psychological pressure designed to simulate the harshest in-game scenarios. Players are reportedly being pushed beyond traditional limits, with drills that emphasize chaos, unpredictability, and endurance under stress. The goal, insiders claim, is to forge a roster that not only performs but thrives when conditions spiral out of control. Byard's alleged comments have only fueled speculation. The veteran defensive back is said to have hinted that practices feel like controlled storms, where mistakes are magnified and accountability is immediate. While some players are believed to be embracing the challenge, seeing it as a pathway back to dominance, others are quietly questioning whether such an approach can be sustained over the long term. Around the league, reactions are mixed. Some executives admire the boldness, noting that Vrabel has always been known for his hard-nosed philosophy. Others wonder if the line between discipline and excess is being tested too aggressively. The Patriots, a franchise historically associated with structure and precision, may now be venturing into a more volatile identity. For now, everything remains in the realm of rumor and interpretation. Yet one thing is clear. If even a fraction of these reports holds true, something unusual is brewing behind closed doors in New England, and the rest of the league is watching closely. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our New England Patriots, be sure to subscribe to Patriots Hub and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.